Now, you've got issues with the industry. What's going down with the industry, dog?
The industry is full of a bunch of sucking, riding, bending over the desk ass niggas, straight up like that. Whoever don't like it, bring it, nigga. Bring it. I don't give a fuck. Bring it. Bring it. Dude, they got this new breed of rapper that's paying DJs to play they
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They in the record label executive, and it's like there's too much of that going on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Let me be me. Let me be the artist that I am and just play my motherfucking music. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Now they want you all up under this, you know, sitting at the going to dinner with them and shit like that, and you know, all that favor for a favor shit. I don't get down like that. Look, I give you the music, you give my money. That's it. A lot of the love I had for wanting to be a part of the industry is not there anymore. I don't even associate myself with the industry. You know what I'm saying? I'm not an industry artist. I'm an artist in the industry.
I get a little uncomfortable. I get uncomfortable. Like he said something to me one time, a long time ago. He told me to take me shopping. I looked at him like, what you just say? Let me move, man, before I do something. You're gonna make me mess up the wedding.
Oh, that's a nice gesture.
Let me get out. No, dude, take me there. Still with a guy said so.
Turns out DMX had been warning us about Diddy and the music industry for years. But most people brushed him off. They thought he was just another troubled artist. One person who didn't, 50 Cent DMX, was never afraid to talk about how twisted the industry really is. He once said it's full of people who'll do anything to get ahead, sell out, suck up, bend over, whatever it takes. But he wasn't just ranting. He said he met the devil in the industry, and that's how he knew God was real. Because without that kind of evil, he wouldn't have had to fight so hard to hold onto his soul. He made it clear, he was in the industry, but not of it. That's why nobody could control him. He refused to play their game.
And what did they do? They sold the company. They invited me into a house and they sold it. Yeah, I am mad. You know what I mean? Go right, I'm mad. I feel betrayed, man, but you know what I mean? It's a business and I'm gonna carry it like a business. But my music is still my fucking music. And you play my music, you play on my life. You play on my life, nigga, it's gonna disappear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, things are definitely changing there, man.
Yeah, they got a whole new staff now, so I gotta go in and see what's up, you know what I'm saying?
Fast forward to now, and suddenly, DMX's words hit different. The truth about Diddy is coming out, and it's darker than anyone imagined. And everything DMX said, it's starting to sound more like prophecy than paranoia. At one time, DMX revealed he turned down deals with Diddy because something felt off. Diddy had passed on signing him early on, but when Def Jam came with a big offer, Diddy rushed back in, trying to double it, but DMX wasn't buying it. He'd already heard the stories, whispers of what really went on behind closed doors at Bad Boy Records.
One thing I respect about him is that at least he told me to my face what he felt. He's like, nah, his voice too up, I'm all of it. Maybe 3 weeks later when he found out I was getting signed, but that time he was like, yo, I'll lace your pockets. I'll double what they gave you and lace your pockets. I'm like, you didn't know what I was in. You just pretty much jump on the bandwagon now. If you didn't see that I was, just like, nah, I'm cool. So it's a message in the story.
Like I told you, we sat down with Diddy, but he knew he wasn't going to sign with Diddy. He knew Diddy wasn't going to sign him. He knew in his mind that Diddy wouldn't want to take on problems right now.
Yale said that you were supposed to sign the Bad Boy. Look, they know I was talented. They just looked at it and was like, I don't want all the stuff that comes with him. He stumbled over it, but he didn't know the trouble that came. You see what I'm saying? So I was like, yo, nah, this is...
Some people thought DMX was only talking about how Diddy financially exploited artists, robbing them blind with bad contracts. But now, with the disturbing allegations surfacing, people are starting to ask, what if DMX meant exactly what he said?
DMX told us about Diddy. DMX was known for talking out about how wicked the industry actually was. He talked about how the industry would basically unalive people because they made more money off of you than alive. One thing that stuck in my mind is the fact that DMX said that he never saw Biggie smile until he passed away. He explained that you would always see happiness in a person's smile or even in their eyes, and he literally didn't ever see that from Biggie until he was in his casket. In the same interview from a long time ago, he talked about how Diddy would rip off his artists and steal their publishing.
first I was a light. She, you know, the face, like, man, this is the hardest way. My really words, like, it's the hardest way with smile. That's it. So you don't just smile with your mouth, you smile with your eyes, like, you know, like, true smile, you know, bringing something else. Well, you know, a lot of stuff, even though I want a lot of stuff out of it, you know, they were a super group, you know, outside them. And it was a blessing of ours. I'm sure they were happy about getting signed first, and they were on the Benjamin, and she was on, but they made them shit, and put them in the seat. Made them write lyrics for them, all that publishing it, right? Like, damn. I'm glad, you know,
And this isn't the only thing that DMX talked about. He also talked about how there were people in the industry that basically wanted to take you out to dinner and stuff to get a hold of your music. And you cannot tell me that DMX was not talking about Diddy, because the first thing that I thought of is when 50 Cent said that Diddy asked to take him shopping. DMX even explained how some of these artists would sleep with music executives to get up in the industry. And now that we know how Diddy rolls and what he was doing with people's careers, I almost guarantee you the person that DMX was talking about was...
And it wasn't just Diddy. DMX warned that some new artists were doing anything to get signed. Things that had nothing to do with music. He hinted at favors, manipulation, even exploitation. And the same exact rumors? They've followed Diddy for decades.
think of it now, he was grooming us. It's kind of like you're signing boy band groups and girl band groups because you like one or two of them and you want to see who's gonna go. It's nothing to you but a tax write-off, but you're really searching for a butt the whole time. So he was looking for my butt, Chopper butt, everybody butt. It wasn't nothing about the music. Was like, yeah, I can, you know, and it took off to be bigger than he ever expected it to be. But Puffy coming up, he was just signing a lot of boys. Usher, it was something he figured out that what R. Kelly figured out is we can get them away from the parents. If we could get them alone, isolated, you know, then we can get them. Once you get in a butt, it's like you want us now. What you gonna say? I got video of me in your butt. Like, how can you ever make another record? You dig what I'm saying?
DMX even dropped a track called The Industry, where he laid it all bare. He said, "It's not about talent anymore. It's about playing the game. They want to control how you dress, how you act, how you talk. If you don't fall in line, you're done." But DMX refused to be fake. He said, "I'm not an industry artist. I'm an artist in the industry." And here we are in 2025, and everything he warned us about, it's playing out in real time. He spoke about artists selling their souls, about vultures circling, about Diddy, and he wasn't alone.
Right, I go to Diddy parties, which is where people like me step in. So, mother, because ain't nobody stopping me when I come. Why would they talk about it? Who is there to go to? Who's gonna fucking help them? What HR department do you know of that works for any of these labels? When have you ever heard of a sexual harassment suit being publicly acknowledged in the entertainment industry? Never. Not in entertainment. He was the only one.
Yeah.
He saw how that turned out.
Yeah, no, guilty.
That's why they do it. To make you an example. To remind you what they're willing to do to keep things the way they want them. It's intimidation. Can't go to the authorities. They're all bought and paid for. You can try to get a special prosecutor, but they'll just pay somebody to reassign him to another case.
But instead of listening, people clowned him, called him crazy, addicted, washed up. The media dragged him relentlessly. Even when he passed in 2021, they labeled him troubled instead of honoring him as a truth teller. Yes, DMX had his demons, drugs, legal issues, but one thing he was never accused of: hurting women, hurting children. Meanwhile, the powerful people he warned us about, They just kept getting richer. And now, there's a real chance Diddy might walk away free.
And David Gelman, former prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. David, welcome.
Hey, Mike, good to be here.
So in week 2 of testimony, jurors heard from a dozen witnesses as prosecutors try to prove sex trafficking and racketeering. What are your expectations when court resumes tomorrow?
It's going to be really interesting tomorrow when Diddy's third or fourth assistant takes a stand, and she's going to actually corroborate Kid Cudi's testimony from last week, where he said that Diddy and another associate of his bombed his Porsche years ago at his house. Now, you have to have corroboration about that because nobody can put Diddy there. And in fact, nobody even can say Diddy's the actual one who did it. But if they can say that Diddy or an associate of his did it, then you may have a racketeering charge there. Because right now, as it stands, Mike, nothing, and I mean nothing, is sticking to Diddy.
Diddy's lawyers are trying to make the case that his escapades do not amount to federal crimes. How difficult is that argument?
I think they're doing a fantastic job, honestly. Look, everybody has said, and Diddy's lawyers even said it in their opening statement, Diddy is not a good guy. There's a lot of domestic violence that occurred between him and Cassie in their relationship. However, what we've heard so far from the testimony of Cassie and the other individuals does not amount to the federal charges that he's being charged with right now. I'm not going to say anything that we heard is very good because it's all horrific. However, the state or the government in this particular instance needs to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he conspired to racketeer, to and to promote prostitution. So far, they're falling way behind in this. And I know there's a lot more to go in this trial because they're saying it's going to be about 8 weeks. But the government really better step on the gas because they don't have a lot more time to go.
So the play seems to be maybe admit to a state crime that avoids prison time. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. Look, again, you're hearing about all this domestic violence, but all of that has nothing to do with what Diddy is charged with. There's a possibility, and I'm saying a very strong possibility right now, that Diddy could walk, that he could be spending 4th of July at home having a barbecue.
But 50 Cent isn't having it. He's reportedly planning to contact Donald Trump specifically to stop him from pardoning Diddy. At a press conference with Elon Musk, Trump stunned reporters by saying he'd consider a pardon for Diddy if convicted in his federal case. Wasn't about to let that slide. He jumped on Instagram saying, "I'm gonna make sure Trump knows how I feel about this guy." He followed up with another shot. Donald doesn't take disrespect lightly, and he doesn't forget who crosses him. Earlier that week, Diddy's former assistant Capricorn Clark testified that Diddy once told his manager, "I don't like all the back and forth. I like guns." That comment, aimed directly at 50, and 50, who survived being shot 9 times, wasn't letting it slide.
Explosive testimony in the federal sex trafficking trial against Sean Diddy Combs. Yeah, today jurors heard from Capricorn Clark. She was a former employee of Combs who testified that the music mogul kidnapped and threatened her during her time working for him. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges in the case. NBC News Entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas is outside the courthouse for us once again in New York City. Chloe, what did Clark say on the stand today?
It was incredibly riveting. She was emotional. Just a few moments ago, she actually apologized to the judge for crying so much. This is a woman who was a personal assistant for Combs at one point and then held various roles on and off over the course of 14 years. And she talked about this one moment from December 2011 when she says that Combs was furious when he found out that Cassie had been cheating on him with musician Kid Cudi. Remember, Kid Cudi, whose real name is Scott Muscudi, he testified last week. And so now we're getting a fuller picture of her version of what happened in December 2011 when Combs allegedly broke into Kid Cudi's house after he found out that Cassie and Kid Cudi were having this relationship. And she says that Combs showed up to her apartment early in the morning with a gun and kidnapped her, forced her to go with him to break into Kid Cudi's home. And then she said that she stayed back in the car and she called Cassie and warned her what was going on. She also says that later that morning she returned to Sean Combs' house after he had her go and get Cassie and bring her to him. She says that that's when she witnessed Combs violently Cassie and her to the point that she fell to the ground in a fetal position, and that he continued to all the way from the front threshold of this mansion to the street. And she says that she was so worried for Cassie's life that she actually called her mother, Regina Ventura, and told her to call 911. But this is slightly different, you guys, than what we heard on the stand from Kid Cudi. Also, when we heard Regina Ventura take the stand, we didn't hear about that call from Capricorn Clark. You know, it's really interesting for me to sit in this courtroom and you hear little bits and pieces of these alleged events. And so it's going to be really interesting to hear what the jury eventually thinks in a few weeks. And I also want to point out that it looks like the prosecution might actually be running ahead of schedule, and they may only have just about 4 weeks left of their case before they hand it over to the defense.
And Chloe, who else are we expecting to see on the stand this week?
So today we're expecting to hear from some of the individuals that got to the scene of Kid Cudi's car explosion a few weeks after this alleged kidnapping. Remember, he said last week on the stand that Combs was so angry about his relationship with Cassie going on behind his back that he was behind this Molotov cocktail being put into his Porsche convertible. And we saw pictures of the damage of his Porsche last week. So we're expecting to hear from some of the firefighters and the police officers that were leading this investigation.
Capricorn Clark's testimony was explosive. But Gene Deal, a former Bad Boy security chief, had even more to say, backing up her claims and adding shocking new details about what really happened behind closed doors.
When Capricorn testified, man, it was heartfelt not because she was crying and going through all the pain that Cassie and her went through, because when you heard her testimony, you found out that she really didn't care for Cassie like that. Their friendship grew. You know, they had grown into a friendship that she cared more about Diddy, because she even wrote him letters that she had a crush on him back in the day. So it was kind of weird hearing all the stuff she was going through. And in my mind, I was thinking that, and knowing who Diddy was, he probably slept with her too. That's what I was thinking. I don't know that to be true. You understand? But what people didn't understand in her testimony, because just like Dawn, that he would fire her, then she'll come back, or she'll go get another job, and then she'll have to come back, or whatever they work about, something like that. People don't understand this, bro. When you look at the situation with all the people that were employed by Diddy and that was in the music world, it's this old proverb, the golden rule. And what's the golden rule? The man with all the gold make all the rules. They think it's 5 times they said. Up in this old abandoned warehouse like. So she was terrified and she was scared and she didn't want to go, but she had to go. And she put Paul Offord on blast. That's the one they used to call Uncle Paulie. She put him on blast like he was some gangster taking her up there. And if she would have been found, and all the polygraphs came up inconclusive, whatever that shit is. It wasn't conclusive that she did anything regarding stealing any of the jewelry or something like that. So it was just a fear tactic.
This isn't some new rivalry. The tension between 50 Cent and Diddy goes back nearly 20 years. In 2006, 50 dropped a diss track called The Bomb, accusing Diddy of knowing who was behind Biggie's murder. Since then, insiders have echoed the same chilling claims. And 50? He never stopped pressing the issue.
So big, somebody gonna try to come tonight. And Lil C, who I hadn't seen all week, Lil C says, Gene, go ahead on with that cop. I said, I know one thing, you better get you a GED. You know what that is? A good enough degree, so they don't teach you out your money like they doing your man right here. And I was talking to about Big. because I had read his whole contract on the plane, because Puff had gave me the briefcase. When he gave me the briefcase, you know, like, he just do some bullshit, hand me the briefcase, and went to first class, and I went in the emergency exit, and I just opened it up, started reading the shit. So it's saying, because at the end of the contract, Big was begging for his, well, he was asking for his publishing and his marketing back, and Puff was saying in the contract, we'll revisit that at a later date. You know what I'm saying? So I'm reading this story. I got 6 hours on this plane. I'm gonna go through whatever's in this briefcase. Somebody told that. Somebody told Puff, Pac gotta die, Big gotta die. And shit not gonna go to jail. You know, these people plan 25 years in advance. Had Pac and Big still been alive today, come on, brother. You and I both know how strong they were.
In fact, he's taking it even further. After Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex, filed her shocking lawsuit accusing him of abuse and disturbing sex parties, 50 announced he's producing a Netflix documentary about the allegations. Meanwhile, things in court got even more intense. One former assistant, testifying under the alias Mia, told jurors that Diddy sexually assaulted her during her 8 years working for him.
Former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs gave emotional testimony today in Combs' racketeering trial. She claimed Combs sexually assaulted her multiple times, and ABC's Rita Roy has the details.
Celebrity stylist and friend of Cassie Ventura, Deontay Nash, walking into a Manhattan courthouse today, facing more cross-examination from the defense team of Sean Diddy Combs. Nash, who was subpoenaed to testify, detailing multiple instances of alleged violence and control he says he witnessed in Ventura and Combs' relationship. He testified he often saw Ventura bruised up and that he once witnessed Combs seeing Ventura. He told jurors Ventura confided in him how Combs pressured her into unwanted sex with male prostitutes, and that he knew her to spend nights with Combs in hotel rooms against her will, including one time on her 29th birthday, when Combs allegedly told her, "I do all this for you, and you can't do this one thing for me," apparently referring to her not wanting to participate in a freak-off. Nash said another time Combs threatened to release sex tapes of Ventura, telling the jury that Ventura said she didn't want to have sex with those guys in the tapes, but she did it because, quote, Puff wanted her to. The defense questioning Nash's recollection about certain incidents, including that alleged bloody. And when Nash testified that Combs controlled everything about Ventura's appearance, defense attorneys suggested it was a business decision rather than an element of coercion. Combs' team has conceded that he was abusive, but that the violence was due to drugs and jealousy, and not about him forcing her into. A former assistant of Combs taking the stand under the pseudonym Mia, telling jurors about the times Combs allegedly forced himself onto her sexually. She says working with him was exciting, but chaotic and toxic, talking about multiple instances of alleged violence. Now, Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges against him and has maintained that all sexual encounters were consensual.
And Diddy's lawyer, Brian Steele, tried to discredit her by reading out old texts and social media posts where she appeared affectionate toward Diddy. But prosecutor Maureen Comey wasn't having it, calling the questioning humiliating and saying it would scare other victims from coming forward.
I didn't know that Diddy actually is being charged with tampering with some of these witnesses and victims before his trial started underneath the RICO charge. And the crazy thing is, what if I tell you that this same past behavior was alleged in Diddy's last criminal trial in the 1999 nightclub incident with J-Lo? They were alleging back in 1999 during that nightclub incident that Diddy was using his entourage to help mess with these witnesses. The one being named was Diddy's bodyguard, Uncle Paulie, who we keep hearing brought up in the current trial as a co-conspirator for a lot of different things that Diddy allegedly has done. And y'all know I'm about to break it all down, so let's get into it. This is the indictment for Diddy's current criminal charge, and as you can see under here, it says that he is being charged with multiple acts of tampering with a witness, victim, or an informant. This is separate from the charge of bribery of a witness that we can assume is when Diddy allegedly paid the hotel security $100,000 to make the video of him beating Cassie disappear. And this is another part in the indictment where it starts dealing some of the intimidation or bribery of a witness. When Diddy's authority or reputation was threatened by the possibility of negative publicity or legal or law enforcement action against him, including in or about late 2023, Following public allegations of Combs' crimes, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise pressured witnesses and victims, including through attempted bribery, to stay silent and not report what they experienced or knew to law enforcement. On phone calls, Combs and other members and associates of the enterprise, among other things, provided these victims and witnesses with false narratives of events in an effort to conceal Combs' crimes. Combs caused these calls to be recorded on at least 2 occasions.
So now the question is, will this finally lead to justice, or will the same system that failed DMX and silenced so many others protect Diddy again? Let us know what you think in the comments.